is there a need to show more of your real personality because people have a perception of who you are because you're a news presenter? Does that make sense?
I think people have a perception of who I am, yes, because I'm a news presenter.
Yeah.
And like you've said, it's like a position of authority because of what it is that we do, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I fought really hard for from the start of my career is I just want to be me doing the news.
Yeah.
So when I moved into regional telly when I was at the BBC, having been at Radio 1 and 1 Extra for 5 years, I remember the person that was training me at the time to do editing, had to train to be an editor and stuff. And I'd laid down my voice onto the package, and he said to me, "Oh, you're going to have to redo that." I was like, "Well, why?" I said, "Oh, because that's not how we speak at the BBC." And I had a choice in that moment to either agree with him or to continue to do what I knew was best for me, and that was to just be myself. So I said to him, "Well, I've been at the BBC for 5 years and it's been all right up until this point, so I think I'll be fine." And he was like, "Oh, right." And so in that moment, I had to decide whether or not I was going to become what you're supposed to be as a broadcast journalist, and that sort of received pronunciation, wearing particular clothes, doing your hair in a very particular way. In that moment, I had to make a decision, and I decided I just want to be me.
Yeah.
Because I think an audience would see through it if I tried to be anything else, and I would lose their trust. And also, why can't I be Charlene from South East London and reading the news? Why do I have to pretend to be, I don't know, Molly from Kensington or something, or from Chelsea? Why do I have to pretend to be something else?
Yeah.
So from that moment, I made a decision I was only ever going to be me, and I'm only ever going to show me. I'm not going to post up, really sort of highbrow stuff online so that I seem more intelligent. I know I'm intelligent. I couldn't do the job that I do if I wasn't intelligent. So the fact I do the jobs that I do immediately shows what my capabilities are. I don't need to pretend about anything at all.
Yes, of course.
So I sort of it was very much a conscious decision to do that. Yes, sometimes I don't pronounce my T's. Yes, sometimes I say arcs instead of ask, which people have emailed in to complain about before.
Have they? Yeah. I get that one as well.
So, because it's a combination of Jamaican, Caribbean and South London. Yes, we say arcs, ARKS instead of ask. Arcs is a lot easier for me to say because that's what I've grown up with, and I did elocution lessons as a kid, but arcs maintained within my language. But yes, people have emailed in to complain about that before.
Oh my God.
Why can't you talk proper? You're supposed to be on TV. No. And I'm like, just get over yourselves. So I don't let that affect me. And there'll be moments where I do try really hard to say it properly, but I have to say it slower. So I have to really think about it properly to say ask properly rather than just ask.
That's crazy that someone emails the news to complain.
Oh yeah, and I mean the only thing I did change was I used to say NHS because H also a very South London way of saying H, and I would get emails. This is early on in my career at ITN. There's so many complaints about she needs to learn how to say H's properly.
That is wild.
So with that, I did train myself to say H instead of H. Also because it's quicker to say NHS. Anyway, but yeah. People do complain. There's a particular individual who would consistently complain when, say, I don't know, if Rohit Khatri was on location. And I'd say, "Thanks, Rohit." "You shouldn't say thanks.
Oh my God.
You should say thank you. You need to learn to be polite." Like, oh my gosh. Do you have nothing better to do with your time?
Oh my God.
And it's the idea that if you are a news presenter, that you should talk in a certain way, present in a certain way. And it goes back to doing the received pronunciation thing. A small proportion of society ever spoke with received pronunciation. But there was an obsession with it when it came to broadcasting.
Oh, wow.
And that's how we get to a situation where you don't hear certain accents that often on TV. Certain accents are seen in a particular way, like comedy, for example.
Yeah, of course.
So this all goes back to a decision that's made by the public broadcaster, because it was them that really drove how we see accents, deciding that if you did the news, you could only do it with received pronunciation, because those who speak in a very posh accent are immediately more relatable, more trustworthy.
Wow.
Whereas,
I didn't know this,
and
man.
that totally ignores every single other accent in the country. And so you'll find then that when a lot of people back in the day would move into journalism and move to London for journalism to work at the BBC a lot of the times, they would have to train themselves to get rid of their accent, because there were certain broadcast channels that they were not allowed to speak on, because the inference being, but no one will be able to understand you. Okay, so we're all speaking the same language, and yes, you may have a Geordie accent, but guess where everybody would understand a Geordie accent? The more we hear it.
Yeah.
And yet you forced us to understand received pronunciation, where very few people speak it. You're able to do that, but we're not supposed to understand other accents. And that's why, you know, when you have broadcasters who do speak with very heavy accents, they will also get a lot of abuse, especially if they work in news, about the fact that they shouldn't be doing a particular programme because they can't be understood. Well, they're British.
Yeah.
They're speaking English. Why are they not understood? Well, because there's not enough people with accents that work across what are deemed to be some of the most powerful jobs in broadcasting.
Yeah. I'm so glad the way you delivered that, because that's, I think, one thing I realized when I started doing TV, it was those I don't know, complaints, microaggressions, whatever you want to call it, but it was always like, oh, you keep saying man a lot, or you keep saying in it, and I'm like, yeah, but that's where I'm from. I can't change how I speak. Like,
would they say that?
Oh, listen, let me tell you something, man. If we had more time, listen, it would be another episode, man. But like, I always get like microaggressions in terms of like as a presenter, but it's almost like people realizing that I'm a comedian, you know, like, so I think that's where I'm lucky enough to be like, no, but I do comedy. So I'm always like presenting, whenever I'm presenting or I'm on a show, it's like, I'm here to be on this show as I'm inserting humor into the show. That's what I am. So if I'm inserting humor, I've got to be 100% myself. But oh yeah, no, I had that, man. I think when I done the Brits was the one where there was like, you keep shouting. Why are you shouting? I'm like, mate, I'm in South London in front of 20,000 people. Like, I'm big, I'm expressionate, I'm black. Like, I give energy. That's who I am. Like, if you've ever seen my comedy, I'm very physical. I speak. I do different accents and stuff. But yeah, so interesting.
But that's why the broadcast industry struggles to modernise, and accents are a big part of that.